Good evening and welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. It's the WORT Board of Directors meeting, and it's about 7:04 and 35 seconds. Welcome aboard. I call this meeting to order. First order of business is to adopt the agenda. I sent the link to the agenda out earlier today, and people have had a chance to look at it. Are there any objections or additions or corrections to that? Hearing none, I think we'll consider it accepted, adopted. The August draft minutes were available on the Google Drive. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Then let's consider them adopted and approved. I do not recall any communications from the public that were board business. I pledge wrapped on the Monday jazz show with Alex Welding White, but that wasn't really a communication from the public. So there were no executive committee actions since the last meeting. We need to elect a new secretary for the board. KJ Berzian resigned because of obligations she had with her job. And so that opens up a vacancy on the board. And it also opens up a vacancy for secretary. I'll give you all 30 seconds to think about that and think about who you might want to nominate, or if you want to nominate yourself.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who is CSW member?
This is Kai.
Oh, hi, Kai.
I'm just using the I sometimes when I interview people, I use the Zoom account, and I guess the information was there. So I think why it took me so long to figure out how to log in. So this is Kai.
Okay, thanks. Hi.
And you can go and change like that. Susan Sheldon joined us. Welcome, Susan.
Hey, Susan.
Hello.
We're in the process of electing a secretary for the board. Any volunteers? Hearing none.
Well, we're going to be joined by a new board member at some point in the not too distant future, and B, we've still got several people who are not at this meeting. So unless there's a real pressing need, if somebody had indicated real interest and desire to do so, but if not, we can't really press anybody into service, and maybe we could hold this over until the next meeting.
Other thoughts?
Like a motion or just a suggestion into the air?
Well, at this point, it's a suggestion to see how people respond to it. If people respond positively, I'll make an emotion.
Yeah, I don't see any pressing need to immediately do it. The only other thing is that the secretary is automatically added onto the personnel committee. That's like the standard committee that the secretary kind of presides over. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And Kai's point is right on. But I agree with Stu that it probably won't work out well if we appoint someone. who hasn't expressed willingness. So,
So I move to refer the election of secretary to the next board meeting.
Second.
Second, oh, Dean gets the second.
oh, I've got caps lock on, no wonder. Okay. I'm making notes. So what was your motion to refer?
Yes.
I think it's more defer, isn't it? Defer to
The motion's to refer.
okay.
Or we could defer and get a refer, but that's another matter entirely.
Meeting adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed, say no. Are there any abstentions?
Can I ask Doug for an update on the election process and the timetable for filling that vacancy?
That's something that hasn't been even started yet.
Ah, okay.
Between Willie Street Fair and Pudge Drive, and
Yeah.
the fact that I have a dislocated hip with some sciatic pain shooting down my leg right now, I am
Ouch.
barely able to work.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope you get better. Hope you feel better.
Yeah, I'm icing it right now during this meeting, and like hopefully it will unlock, but it's really excruciating.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move it along.
Okay. Kai, I neglected to link the notes from the Finance Committee meeting to the agenda. I did link the
Apologies.
folder in, but would you mind giving a brief update of some of the things we talked about in the?
Yeah, so the major thing is the 6-month budget review is being deferred to not have that discussion anymore. There was a brief discussion that was held at the staff collective meeting, but I'm sure as Doug and Susan can talk about this, but the main thing is that now that's going to be a 2023 budget discussion. There will be a draft budget submitted to be discussed at the October meeting, and then hopefully it'll get approved by November. And if not, then there's some time to go through a second draft process to be approved by December. But I think the ideal was to have it approved by November to be ready for the start of the 2023 year. So that those will be the main points that the Finance Committee will be taking care of through the time. We're going to do the check signers afterwards. So that's going to be happening afterwards. And I know that's something that that we wanted to have a discussion. Also, I was reaching out to one of our financial an analyst to see options for how we'll be investing some of our income, just to explore the possibilities for that. So that'll be another action item in future board meetings once the Finance Committee gets that talk, and then we start deciding about what avenues to explore with some of our savings that we have just sitting there. Maybe we can be performing better percentage rate than we are currently.
Thank you.
Yep. Nothing major action report that needs to be approved at this time.
All right. And you said that the programming committee report did not have an action item.
No. Yep. We're chugging along, and I think by our next meeting on October either 10th or 11th, that is, we should have our major item done. That'll be the annual renewal form. So yep, me and Charlie and Michael and Tom and everyone else and Sybil have been working hard on that. So Yep, that should be done by the 10th and hopefully sent out by the 11th. So that's probably going to be our next major report, talking about how that gets sent out. But yeah, that'll be big. So that's for next month though. Yes, I did, Susan. Was there something that you would like me to mention from that?
Well, I apologize because I couldn't make the meeting today, but I did look over the reports. I'm just wondering on the July report,
Yes.
why I don't see any pledge drive income when my database shows that there's pretty close to 5,000 in pledge drive income. Am I missing it somewhere?
I think that gets entered later because of the accrual process of accounting. So I think that's part of the reason why, because we haven't received it yet. And that's part of the reason why we want to switch.
I'm saying we received it in July.
Interesting. Okay, let me open.
So I know that we switched to accrual, so she
Yep.
entered that we were going to get $30,000 for the summer pledge drive. Is that why there will never show up any income from the drives under the accrual system for any of the months afterwards? Because it's a little confusing with having accruals for pledge drives to actually monitor cash flow.
No, I think we wanted to switch from accrual because that problem existed, but I don't think we've switched it yet because of
No, they wanted to switch to accrual.
to accrual. Okay, maybe I have it off.
We just did that a couple, that was at the advice of
Wagner.
our auditors.
Yes, let me look up QB.
So that answers the question that it's accrual and there's just got to be some, then you're just going to have to pay attention to cash flow and assume
Yes.
that's what you're not seeing. I would bet that there would be a way that could enter the reports somewhere, because I think kind of good to know.
That would be the QuickBooks reconciliation between what Mary Joy enters and what you enter into Civi, the program that you use. So that'll be reflected there, which is why I send that as one of the 4 major reports for board members to look at and review, just to see how that lines up. And it does include some of the income received from the donations they're actually getting received. So that's kind of our check on what's being received at the moment, because there's automatic monthly donations, which I'm sure you're aware of, other types of donations in our codes for accounting, and then the actual cash that's received, and we mark it as benefit income. So
well, just so the board's aware that there's more income coming in.
Yes,
particularly some months there'll be a huge amount of income coming in that will not be reflected in these documents.
Another thing to note is that we're always a month behind because it takes time to close out the month. So right now I've just put July's financials in. So we're not reviewing August months because that's not closed yet. So we're always going to be a bit behind on that, but that's standard procedure.
We've been doing that for years.
Yep. Just in case anyone had questions.
Yeah, and if I may interject, that's why the year-to-date profit and loss are always more accurate, because that income is actually reflected in the month that the pledge drive happened. That's when the income is accrued. It's when it's promised. So the fulfillment really is going back to fulfilling June. And then if it's not fulfilled, it becomes bad debt.
After a year.
After a year, correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Other discussion about finance committee? I saw no technology or engineering committee action items. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong.
You are not wrong.
All right. Being that we're in the midst of the pledge drive, all the staff are really tied up on pledge drive issues, so very little else in terms of action items on the agenda tonight. I will note that in the listener sponsor development report, Susan has an action item to reassign the gift acceptance policy to the finance committee to review. I thought that we had most recently referred the gift acceptance policy to policy and bylaws, but I didn't see a report from policy and bylaws that recommended that we do that. Stu, do you know if we've discussed that in policy and bylaws?
Well, we haven't because what with the pledge drive and Willie Street Fair, it has been well nigh impossible to come up with a schedule for a meeting. I think the request to send it to finance is of Susan's initiative, and I'm fine with it. If you know, she can speak to why she thinks finance should look at it first, but I got no problem with that.
I can hop onto that. Part of the reason that I'm actually interested in this particular item is because there's a policy on home acceptance as a gift, and I thought that we could just maybe, I don't know, perhaps standard practice is to tack on all those fees, but I think if they're giving us the home, we should make it as easy as possible for them to do it, and then later on we can ask maybe for some remission, is that the word, for some of the extra fees that we could take on as that. But I don't know. I would like to, you know, make the barrier or remove the barrier to donating a home to us as an actual gift, that so that we can make use of that. Because I think that in the past I'd heard that we weren't able to accept it because there are all these rules about it and we just had to like say no to them. But that's like, you know, money left on the table that
we didn't get that. We didn't accept it. It had nothing to do with the rules because the gift acceptance policy didn't even exist at that time. We didn't get it because the guy wanted to move quicker than between board meetings, and I could not get, and it was out of town house. We didn't have information on what was on the property, and he was trying to move, you know, wanted to donate it within a couple of days. So, you know, it just taught me that if the next time that happens, we need to get a real estate broker and get that looked at and immediately act on it instead of saying it can wait. So that was why. Anyway, the reason I wanted to go to the finance committee has more to do with accounting practices and stuff, to just look it over and make sure that the stuff that, you know, how it's going to be handled makes sense with accounting, makes sense with the things that we already have built in place to handle items that are donated. So I just thought the proper place for it, once I've thought it through, was that it belonged at the finance committee first. And then if the policies and bylaws wanted to look it over for anything, I've got a lot of annotations about that I didn't put in the document about why I have things set up that way, but I can provide them to the finance committee.
Okay, so I'll move referral of the gift acceptance policy to finance as the initial review, and then policies and bylaws before it comes back to the board.
Hi, Susan.
That sounds great to me.
Was that a second?
Stand by. I'm way behind here.
What you will. I'm sorry.
Was there a second?
Question for me? I'm sorry.
No.
I'll second
Casey
that.
walked in my office on the way to, before he was going up to do a show, so I missed.
Oh yeah, so I think the summary is that Stu's recommending that we can take the first swing at policy and then send it over to policies and bylaws before it gets sent to the board. So that's kind of the flow.
Was there a second after Stu's motion?
Yes, I will second that. I agree with said motion.
You know, you don't really know what the fuck you're supposed to do right now, except
Dean, mute.
Yo, Dean, I think you're on speaker.
I've seen them, you know. I think, God.
Well,
Dean.
I muted Dean.
okay.
The All in favor of Stu's motion, say aye or raise your hand.
I,
All opposed, say no. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. I go back and I have two screens going, so sometimes I lose my mouse.
That can be very painful.
Yes. Um, I don't think that there are any more action items on this in this meeting.
something I would like to mention. Oh, Stu, you want to
No,
go first?
no, go ahead, Kai.
I would like to mention that in Shelley's report, we saw that Rochelle is, graduating out of WORT for the future. It's her last year of graduate school, and she'll be taking on some sort of internship or other program or other opportunity that won't align with that. So we'll be looking for another talk producer for a public affair, and I know that Shawley's going to bring that up at the next meeting, so it's relevant for that, but also that everyone send your congratulations to Rochelle. She's been very good on that program, so we're going to need to find another person to step into that and do everything that she's done to the same level of execution. It was good.
And in the same context of WART graduates stepping up, Jonah Chester just got a very prestigious fellowship
Yes.
as part of his work at that new Wisconsin
Center for
podcast
Investigative
thing.
Journalism.
So
Yeah,
I
Wisconsin Watch.
the what people do when they leave here is pretty impressive. We are, I don't want to say we're the training ground, or the junior varsity, but we really, a lot of people leave here and get very, and take big steps up. It's a testament to us,
Yes. Yeah.
what Molly is doing, what Jonah is doing, what Rochelle is about to do. Yeah. I mean, that's a good sign. It's
And there have been
inconvenient,
many.
but it's a good sign.
Our former assistant news director, Nina Kravensky, I heard her this weekend for NPR reporting from Bethel, Alaska, about the storm that was coming in.
I mean, we got to have Adrian do a story for the whatever publication we're calling, about WART alums making their name in big time news.
Interesting suggestion. Thank you.
I agree with that. That's a great suggestion. We can ask her if she has time in her busy schedule after.
Yeah. Could I ask, since Susan is so busy with the pledge drive, there must be some reason why she's attending, and I'm wondering if we could recognize Susan for anything that she wanted to bring to our attention as part of her report, or any other aspect.
I'm actually working on a ton of stuff while I'm listening
Okay.
to you guys.
Okay.
I'm preparing Facebook posts for fundraising and just transferring them to the scribbles I had written down onto the thing. So I'm just keeping an eye on the board, Stu. That's just my.
Okay.
But I don't have anything pressing other than to say, if it hasn't been said yet, we still have a lot of openings for pledge takers. Would love to have any of you sign up to answer phones if you want to check out the openings. It's mostly next week where we've got the holes, and right, Dave, you had looked that over.
Yep. I picked up Saturday morning, so you'll hear me at 8:30 Saturday AM.
You pledge happy tomorrow night.
No, I'm answering phones. So
Answering phones. Gotcha.
I pledge wrapped with Alex Wilding White on Monday. So
I will briefly say that the pledge drive, it's only day 3, but it's off. Thank you, Stu. I needed that. But it's off to a very slow start, which is I had planned on getting a constant contact email out to the 6,000 donors that we have on that list. But unfortunately, we were a lot of the music shows did not have any wrappers for them. So I spent most of Saturday and Sunday instead calling and lining up wrappers. So we've got some real interesting mix. You'll hear Helena White rapping with Casey tonight, and a lot of hosts crossed. There's some just really interesting combos going on. Anyway, we're going to be amping things up for with social media and with our constant contact direct mail to donors. So I think we'll see an improvement. And the unfortunate thing is that on the listserv for public radio and community radio development officers, it's been really bad news for people who have had pledge drives in September. So for some reason, which kind of surprised me because our winter and our spring were so strong, something is in the zeitgeist of inflation. I don't know what.
It's politics right now. Every
Well-
political candidate, I'm getting 40 or 50 solicitations from every Democrat from the Atlantic to the Pacific and the Gulf to Alaska.
And for those who are in the market, it's been a bad couple of months. It's been a really bad.
I've stopped
Oh, wait.
looking at that. That's just depressing. I'm not looking at my stocks. All right, well, that's probably the reasons, but I'm going to see what I can shake out by doing other things. And now I'm going to shut up and go back to writing Facebook posts.
All right. I have no more business to discuss. Does anybody else have any issues? Dean?
Yeah, so I don't know what dial was that I did. I did have to step out for a minute because I was anticipating a phone call that I didn't want to get, but so I think it's you all should be aware of Al Ruff's wife has a terminal illness, and she'll be probably going to hospice soon, which troubles me because they're good friends.
He's going to be off the air for this pledge drive, I guess.
Yeah, well, now you know why.
Yeah, Shelley filled us in. It isn't just that she might be going back to hospice, but that she
It-
might not make it too much longer at all.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Would you extend some love and some thoughts and support from the Wort family?
I think if the Wort board wants to do something in their name, the staff is individually reached out.
Yeah, let's well, let me look into that and find out what Al wants and what they need, and then I'll shoot an email to the board and once we know more.
Wonderful, pardon me. And even even sometimes just hearing it before something tactile comes along, that might even be the words of encouragement, just to know that they're being supportive. I would appreciate that if you could extend it.
Yeah, we can send something from the board. That's whatever well, I'll have to figure out something that's appropriate. As a friend, I'll reach out on my own, but we'll think of something.
Thanks, Dean. Very good. Other issues?
Well, yeah, I want to comment, since Doug is with us. I just want to say something about the increased level of underwriting spots that I hear. The other radio station that I listen to on occasion, checking around there, is WWOZ out of New Orleans. And maybe it's because they have a couple of large foundation underwriters, but they have very few local small business underwriters. And I find it really nice that we have so many.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, Stu. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we've even gotten some new ones.
Right.
Some older ones have come back, like Orange Tree Imports is now a weekly underwriter once again. Orange Tree Imports is not underwritten with WORT since before I started with WORT.
Wow.
So it's been quite some time. And I'm also in negotiations right now with Community Pharmacy, who also was a way back machine underwriter for WORT.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's really great to see a lot of these businesses who are doing well come back and support the station in such a strong way. It definitely gives me a positive outlook for the business community in Madison, because a lot of them are reaching out and responding really well to when I reach out. So yeah, it's very encouraging.
Susan and Doug, would handwritten notes from various board members to these various businesses be a useful, positive reinforcement?
Oh, always. I would say yes. From a business standpoint, like a business owner would love to get just a note from a board member saying, thank you for supporting WORT. It means a lot to me. I serve on the board. Yeah, and please feel free to personalize it yourself. And if you want me to look over anything you want to send to an underwriter, I'm happy to do that.
Well, Carol's a friend of mine, so I'll just, next time I see Carol, I will, or next time I go into Orange Tree to buy something, I'll say something. But
especially if you have a personal connection like that, I think it's a great thing.
Okay.
And I've talked to the people from Community Pharmacy for years about, they're formed as a cooperative. And so I always pick their brain about how their cooperative works and comparing their challenges to WORT's challenges. So they know very much that I'm involved with WORT, and I think we mutually support each other about how to deal with issues that come up and problem resolution. So and I buy my pharmaceuticals there every month.
My wife also patronizes them quite a bit, and I'll have her mention support for WORT, that we appreciate it, and that I'm on the board, so they know that it's not just a listener, but it's a board member.
Yeah.
And the next time I often go in and pick up her medicine, I'll mention it also.
But I mean, just watch for my board report. We don't have them yet, but I'm in negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah, Marty, they're not signed on yet. It's hopefully coming. So don't thank them yet.
Okay, maybe I'll tell them they should.
It's totally fine. Patrick is really busy, so like I've got it handled. Like, thanks after the fact will be appreciated, though. I'll let you know when I land it.
Yeah. Okay, do that.
Other discussion?
Oh, maybe we should talk about board assignments. I know that there is that email that we all saw, but I don't know, is now a time to put that in since we're all here? If everyone who's not on, maybe we can get that written down.
I'm sort of not prepared to deal with that right now, but
okay, maybe not. We can just individually email as we go. I'm sure that people that have already expressed some interest in other places. So, yep.
I spoke with Amber
yes,
over email today and talked about committees. So
yep, that's why I thought to remind.
Publicly on the board list, which I didn't mean to do, but
yeah,
that's why I saw it.
No, it was my fault.
But that's okay, because it's a tickler for everybody else to think about committees. So that's why I didn't think it was a bad thing. So good.
I have a question. It seems to me that there's a lot of time spent on elections when somebody resigns. Is that something the board ought to consider about when empty spaces are reconsider about when empty spaces are full, so that the staff and other people don't have to spend a lot of time between elections getting somebody elected? Do you understand what I'm saying?
There's not much we can do about it because the process is defined in the bylaws. And if a resignation happens before a date in February, we have to have a special election to fill the seat.
I guess my question was, is there any reason the bylaws couldn't be revised to, is there any
Not without a
outside
vote.
requirement that requires that we do it like that?
Without a vote of the general membership at an annual meeting, you can't just change your bylaws. That is
Okay.
against the law.
Right. But ultimately what Marty is asking is, should we change the bylaws? Should we prepare
Yes.
a bylaws amendment to?
Well, like to what? I mean,
Well-
what? I mean, people resign. What are we going to say? Our bylaws like you can't resign? I mean,
No.
No, we could change could we change the requirements that we have, that are in the bylaws now that necessitate somebody who's on for 4 months and then resigns and has a 2-year or a 3-year term, that we just don't fill that seat until the next regular election? Is there any outside kind of controlling agent that makes us fill that seat so quickly?
No.
Just
no.
the bylaws. And,
So-
and to make it clear, now that we can do online voting, it's a lot less of a problem than it was before when we had to do a mailing to all those people, and less expensive.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that, Dave. The process is much easier than it used to be.
One
So,
of the NFCB threads was about this recently because their board was having trouble getting people on, and they said, do we have to maintain a certain number? And a lot of people recommended that they just have in their, put things up for a bylaw vote where they could say, okay, it's an 11-member board. If it goes below 9, we have to hold a special election. But as long as we hold at 9, if someone leaves, we wait till the next vote for the next year. So they did that, which I thought was clever.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
just,
That is a good way to handle it. The whole thing is we'll have to see what the general membership thinks about it.
Mm.
And whether or not, yeah, that's certainly a consideration, as is whether or not there should be different provisions depending on whether it's a participating member vacancy or a listener sponsor vacancy. It says this is done as soon as practicable by special election pursuant to procedures established by the elections committee. That's you, Dean, right?
I'm on that, yeah, with Doug.
Are there procedures already established for how this is going to be run?
Yes.
Doug knows that,
In
yeah.
fact, we just followed them last year because we just
Yeah.
held a special election. I want to say that's so KJ got the seat, or maybe somebody else got the special election one. I can't remember.
Okay.
The only other discussion we had was to follow the example that the city council is doing right now, is that they appoint someone until the next election. Now, that would be a bylaw change. So that's a potential, well, that's an example of how others do it.
Actually would really like that. There's some past board members. See, this is what happened last time. There's some past board members weren't able to be voted in, like they lost an election, but there's people that are interested, and they're just not able because they didn't get enough votes. And it's like, oh, wait, it'd be nice to be able to channel that somehow. Like, people have energy and intention and time to give. So why not give them an opportunity? I like, those could be like the first people we reach out to and be like, hey, would you be willing to be appointed? I would like to see that as a change. But I can't make that now, but like, that's something to keep in mind for the future for sure.
Well, except you still run the problem of people saying, no, I refuse the appointment. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's fine. Then you have
And then you're in the same position. One thing about this special election, it is for a participating volunteer seat. So a lot of it can be handled internally because we're not looking for a listener sponsor seat. We have things to utilize like the volunteer newsletter, the vol announce, and internal station postings, emails. So one thing that would help is if you know a volunteer that may make a great board member and you think may have the time to give or has even expressed interest, I think tapping them individually and being like, hey, you know, I'm on the board and it's not a completely odious thing. I don't find it to be a big hassle to be on the board. I enjoy my board membership. And to help, you know, recruit a little bit, I think might help, especially people who you feel have skills that would really do well for our board. Like, for instance, financial management, HR, fundraising experience on a board level, you know, things of that nature. I don't know if we'll find those people as volunteers. Maybe we will. This seat also runs until June of next year. So this is another low commitment seat because it's really only for about a 7 or 8 month term by the time we get the election finished.
Have we announced the vacancy and begun the recruiting process or the announcement process?
Not as
No.
yet, because I haven't had a chance to meet with Dean. And
Okay,
Dean and I need to get together, and either because Dean had sent an email, and I'm sure everyone saw it last election, about some of the ideas for making the process better. And they weren't things that go against bylaws, they were more procedural things. Like making sure the listener sponsored board members get on the active voter list because Dean was left off of it when he got elected, because that was the part where that was when Glenn departed. That was one of the things that didn't get passed on. So there was a whole list of really great ideas going forward, which I would like to follow some more of that procedurally. And I know Dean knows specifically what I'm talking about, but once we get together and discuss the procedure going forward, what we do have to do is allow a full month for the application process and a full month for the voting process. That's basically the rules. Because they need to follow general election rules. That's really all the bylaws state, is that a special election, if needed, needs to follow the general provisions in the way that you do a general election.
well, I'm not sure about that. It says pursuant to procedures established by the Elections Committee. It doesn't say it follows any
Oh,
other.
then it's in the, I'm sorry, then it's not in the bylaws, it's in the standing rules on elections, which is a different document and located in the folder with the bylaws on the website. It's one of the additional documents at the bottom. I'm sorry, I forgot where it was, but I know it says it somewhere.
But I think because the bylaws are more general in just saying pursuant to procedures, the Elections Committee has the authority to shorten that timetable.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Oh,
Because you promulgated the document, the other document pursuant to the bylaws authority under procedures established by the Elections Committee. So you can establish new procedures under the bylaws. You might just, I think you should have at the very least the executive committee approve them. But you have the authority to come up with a different procedure than is currently in that other document you referred to.
Okay.
yeah, I just thought that a month each was an ample amount of time. Considering some people only even show up to the station once a week or less, or even once a month, some of the collectives.
All right, so Doug, give me a call or send me an email when you think you have some time carved out, and I'll make myself available.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow evening even, so we can get a move on it.
Tell me.
I have to pick up dinner at Bandung at about 5:30, but I'm free after that.
Okay, well, let's talk offline because I have a commitment around.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll decide at email, whatever works. We don't have to
Thursday,
decide that now.
even weekends, I don't care if you wanna, if that's something you okay with doing it, but
I mean,
let's get on it whenever you have the time and get this thing rolling.
yeah, like this Saturday would work fine because I'm working anyway.
Oh, okay, let's do it that. Shoot me a
Yeah,
time.
I
and,
have a 12 to 4 shift on Saturday.
oh, I could stop down there maybe.
That works too.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that. Let's we'll communicate between now and Saturday.
Sounds great, Dean. Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
So
I just
back to
wanna
Marty's
make it-
question. Go ahead, Marty.
I just want to make it clear that my intent with bringing this up was, is it easier to, I would like to see it less burdensome on the people who do the job if there's a way that can be done. If
It's really not that burdensome, Marty. We're talking
Okay.
about putting up some posters, giving Adrian an article for the volunteer newsletter, sending out a vol announce, and then having Tom set up the actual ballot once we have the applications. It's pretty streamlined at this point because I've basically been working with Glenn on doing this for the last 8 years. Because Glenn not being very electronically savvy, I usually did all of the grunt work for it anyway. So it's really not a big deal.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And as far as I'm concerned, if you guys are happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, being that it's moved to mostly electronic, I mean, we offer paper ballots, but I haven't even had, I only have 2 volunteers who regularly fill out paper ballots, and that's mostly because of vision impairment issues and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the majority of people vote online, and it's very easily handled.
Okay, that's fine with me.
All right, other discussion.
The ibuprofen are kicking in, and my hip is not screaming anymore. Yay!
Yay.
That didn't need to be on the recording, but it is.
Yep. It makes it more personal.
I'll second that.
I think that we're done with our meeting unless anybody else has something to talk about. The
If you'd like, I can just mention that we did have a meeting of this new work group for digital production. We didn't really, we just kind of like laid some groundwork, and we're going to have another meeting in the upcoming month. So I'll just leave it at that. I know it's mentioned in Shali's report.
Great, thank you. I am open to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
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 I
All opposed, say no. Are there any abstentions? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well, everybody.